Welcome, cosmic listeners, to a journey unlike any other you've embarked upon. As the vastness of space stretches out before us, so too does the vastness of our own minds. This is where the ethereal meets the extraterrestrial, where inner space meets outer space. I'm your guide, alongside my hosts, Doro and Matt, and you're tuning into the intersection of meditation and mysteries beyond our stars. Picture this, a vast universe, ever expanding, filled with stars, galaxies, and possibilities. Now visualize our own minds equally deep, intricate, and filled with untapped potential. What if these two worlds aren't as separate as they seem?
All right, here we are again. Welcome to Meditation and Aliens with Matt and Doro. I am Matt Reddy. I'm an author, artist, activist, creator of Hive1.net, a social media platform for global revolution and transformation for utopia. And I'm also a locally elected public hospital commissioner in Jefferson County, Washington. And I am once again joined by my good friend, Doro Kiley, life coach extraordinaire and longtime meditator and meditation teacher. Her website is creationcoach.com. Hi, Doro. Thanks for joining me again today.
Hi, Matt. What a wonderful introduction. And boy, your bio is impressive. So I've been looking forward to this one. You went to the conference last week, and boy, we didn't do this last week because you were busy. I'm really looking forward to this one. So thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We took a week off because I was attending the Stairway to the Stars conference. It's Disclosurefest 2023. I guess they've done a Disclosurefest event each year for a while, and this one was titled Stairway to the Stars. And yes, I definitely have some thoughts and experiences to share from that. And there's also some just alien disclosure news updates we can get into.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
All right, and we are live broadcasting in a Twitter space. So if anyone jumps in there, you will be getting the completely unedited live version of this podcast, and then we will release it as usual on Spotify and in the podcast universe and on YouTube. So let's see. Shall we just I have a lot of notes here that I put together before today's show.
That's awesome. Let's I mean, I'm curious, are they in order, like from speakers or subjects? Just curious.
Well, I did a couple different things. One, I just started to try to put my understanding of the different theories and I sort of put ufology into a spectrum, because that's definitely something I got from the conferences. There's different sort of schools of thought of people that think what's going on, and so I have those sort of grouped, and then I'm looking at a lot of notes and material here because I'm trying to figure out the best way to introduce people to this topic, and sort of also breaking up the info between what are sort of the opinions of, very established mainstream people like U.S. senators, congressmen, scientists, and then you have, people on this other end of the spectrum that are experiencers. They believe they've contacted aliens or communicated with aliens, or they've researched it and listened to all of the most, the most extreme whistleblowers that claim to have seen stuff. And so, so I've got a lot of notes here. So let me just sort of see. I got a couple. Let me try to share things in order from the easiest to digest and before we get into the crazy stuff.
Great. Perfect. That sounds good. Let's go.
Okay. So let's see. We'll start with a little news update. So David Grush, the former intelligence officer whistleblower, he filed a inspector general complaint which is sort of, which really kicked off this alien disclosure movement in Congress in a big way. And his complaint apparently details everything he knows about the U.S. government's secret UFO retrieval and reverse engineering program, as well as it seems to indicate a lot of history of what has been happening behind the scenes since at least 1945, Roswell, and possible murders or assassinations, crimes done with the military industrial complex. All of this information is apparently in a document that he submitted officially to one of the inspector generals. And Congress people like Tim Burchett and others have been trying to get access to this document to really read it, to find out what's going on. They were supposed to get, or they were scheduled to go into a secure facility yesterday, and they were told they were going to get to see more of this complaint. They weren't sure if they were going to get to read the whole thing or if they were just going to be given some really glossed over summary. But that got canceled. So the powers behind the scenes blocked that from happening.
Darn.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's a mixed bag with that, because Congressman Burchett went on to a podcast and he said the problem is if they get told a bunch of classified stuff in this skiff, they really are legally obligated to not tell us. And so it kind of would paralyze them if they are told a huge secret, something like, I mean, if they go in there and they're told JFK was killed by the CIA to hide the aliens, they would not be allowed to come out and tell us. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. Tim Burchett said he wants to do public hearings and he wants to get whistleblowers to come out in public, so it's said in public so that we can all face this information and sort of wrestle with it together. So there's a little so that happened. That's one sort of note. Another thing that happened is the office that the Pentagon created called Arrow, which is the all domain anyways, the UAP office, and controlled by the Pentagon, which a lot of people believe is just, Blue Book 2.0. It's just the Pentagon's effort to continue to conceal this. That's been headed by this guy named Kirkpatrick, who every time you see him interviewed, he clearly seems sort of like a slippery snake trying to dismiss all this. But he's been asked or moved to resign. And so everyone's kind of curious if they're going to put someone in the head of that office that actually has some more willingness to reveal something and to tell us what's going on. But it's just sort of kind of drama behind the scenes there.
Boy.
Well,
yeah. I am curious. Did you pick up any information about what was going on with trying to cut off funding for these operations, these covert operations? Are they still working on trying to get that passed?
Yes. Well, so that brings us sort of to the big thing that is just hanging out there is called the UAP legislation, the Schumer amendment that Senator Schumer put forward a couple months ago, and it is a powerful piece of legislation. It has not passed yet. But it's stuck into the National Defense Authorization Act, and it should pass in December, since it takes billions of dollars into the military and everything, and they always pass this thing eventually. But once this thing passes, it could be the thing that breaks things wide open.
Yeah.
And what this thing will do is it will do all sorts of things. I believe like giving, making it possible for them to cut off funding to any programs that are doing anything with alien technology that they have not officially reported to Congress. It actually gives the U.S. government the right to seize any and all alien technology if anyone in private industry is holding it. It creates a UAP records review board that is an independent agency, supposedly, that will have the authority to declassify information about UFOs and UAP records. And it'll be fully under the control of the executive branch, the president. it does a lot of powerful things. It would be so it's still like, there's some people that believe it won't do enough. It'll still sort of like compartmentalize the information. But this is one thing I at this conference I went to, Lou Elizondo's lawyer was there. His name is Daniel Sheehan, and he is an incredibly famous activist lawyer. He was involved with the Pentagon Papers, which helped expose the cause, what was behind the Vietnam War. I believe the Iran-Contra scandal. He was involved with lawsuits related to that. And so I was really surprised he was there, because it's a pretty woo-woo conference with a lot of sort of psychics and channelers and people that believe they communicate with aliens. But
what was his name again? Let me write that down. Just look him up a little bit.
Daniel Sheehan.
Sheehan, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And he's Lou Elizondo's lawyer, and Lou Elizondo was the first big whistleblower to come out of the Pentagon several years ago. He was interviewed in that 60 Minutes piece that was done about UFOs and UAPs and the Tic Tac incident. So it was really, I didn't actually talk to him. I tried to a couple times. I went to his big talk, and in his talk, he went over the Schumer Amendment in detail and just really went down piece by piece of how this thing really should, through legislation, try to seize control of this story, of this information, and find a way to extract it and reveal details to the public without endangering our military secrets and things like that.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to follow this one closely.
Yeah, and I got a quote from Christopher Mellon here, who is a former Deputy Secretary of Defense. I thought I had that right in front of me here. He said he believes that this amendment really will put us in the end zone in terms of getting this information out there.
Yeah.
But all right, so that's some of the details. Let's see here. So
that's the government political update.
Yes.
So now are you going to talk about that conference? It's going to be interesting.
Okay, so the conference, let's see. I mean, there were, I went to several events that were by experiencers, like by people that claim they communicate with aliens. Like one, Bashar. You've heard of Bashar.
Yeah.
And Bashar is and his thing was incredibly popular. He is, I was going to find his like little description here. He basically claims to be channeling this. His name's not actually Bashar. Bashar is the name of the alien that he claims to channel. And so, but in what he talks about is more sort of like, he's sort of in the narrative that humanity is, and part of ufology, part of the ufology group, some people believe, humanity is trying to evolve, and aliens are trying to help humanity become more enlightened and less warlike and achieve peace and join the galactic community. There's a group of in the ufology world that believe that's the relationship that humans have with aliens. There is one of the interesting sort of distinctions I found is that there are some people, like there's this group called the Asterius Society, which has been around a long time, and they had a presentation there, and it was like founded like back in the 50s by a guy named Dr. His name is Dr. King. I think it's but it's not.
Is that Sirius, like the star system Sirius?
It is.
Okay. SIR.
Asterius Society. Yeah, it's like AE, Asterius.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Aetherius Society by George King in the mid 1950s. That's AETHERIUS.
Okay.
And it's categorized as a religious movement. But this guy, George King, who was practicing like meditation and yoga for like 8 hours a day. He eventually said he started to communicate with cosmic masters that were, they said they were to help humanity solve its earthly problems and advance into the new age. Very, very interesting presentation there from this group. And they had an interview with George King back from, it was like 1950s in London. It was a full-on UFOs are real and the government's hiding it protest that he helped lead back then. So this has been going on a long time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but and I like, but the interesting thing about him and that group, I went up to them after their presentation, asked if he believed the gray aliens were real, that people were really being abducted, that possibly they had made a treaty with Eisenhower in 1950, and they don't believe that. He doesn't believe there are any evil aliens. He doesn't even believe these abduction stories are true. He believes they're misinterpretations, or maybe they're done by the government. It's kind of similar to what Stephen Greer seems to say, that there aren't really evil aliens. There's malevolent people in the government that might do some abductions to confuse people and to make people believe there's some evil aliens, maybe to go along with that Project Bluebeam fake alien invasion theory.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if that's going to happen. Yeah, but I tend to agree with that. I mean, just my own intuitive sense that I get, through meditation and all through my life, I've been in contact with somebody who I've called Charlie my whole life. I've got a blog on my website, and I would agree that there aren't any alien, evil, demonish people. I do think it's mostly humans that are doing that, but that's my opinion.
So what do you think of the alien abduction stories? What do you think is happening with those?
I believe in those. In fact, since we've been talking and working on this, I have been actually feeling that there was a time in my childhood, which I thought was a dream, and now I'm thinking maybe it did happen, where I was about 8 years old, and I was outside and I looked over a kind of embankment, and I saw a spaceship with aliens walking around. And then I just sort of went blank, and I was wondering, maybe they picked me up and put me in their ship. I don't know. But that was my dream. And so I was wondering if that was actually something that happened, because I do hear that they do these mind wipes, these memory wipes, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's just making me think anything is possible at this point.
Yeah.
So I do believe in abductions. Yeah.
Yeah, the memory wipe thing is a very common part of these encounter stories. What did those aliens look like? What was their appearance?
Well, the one I saw most clearly was actually, they almost looked like a triangle head. I remember that very clearly. And big eyes, huge eyes. And they looked like a praying mantis to me, but the memory can play tricks on you. So I can't say for sure what they looked like. All I remember was a very triangular head with large eyes, and tall.
Remember what color they were?
It was too dark to really tell. Yeah.
And when you say praying mantis, did they seem to have an insect-like body, or are you just saying the head shape sort of reminded you of a praying mantis?
The head shape definitely reminded me of praying mantis, but also the way they stood, because they had their arms folded at the wrist, and that made me think more of praying mantis. But again, we're talking a lot of years ago, and a lot of trying to remember in between. It could, it may not have been exactly like that, but certainly the triangular head and the big eyes were really clear.
And do you remember if they had clothes on or something?
They did, yeah, from what I recall. So that's a little bit more fuzzy. Maybe it was clothes, maybe it was some kind of a weird skin covering, but yeah. This is really because all these years I've always kind of dismissed these powerful dreams as just dreams, and listening to all these encounters, I'm thinking maybe it did happen.
Yeah. And Charlie that you communicate, is Charlie, do you think of Charlie as
Now, Charlie is an interesting story because that goes all the way back to even when I was an infant in the cradle. I mean, there was always this sense of a presence around me. And, if I was screaming and crying, I could always remember there was this sense of someone there, even though there wasn't, just kind of cradling me, not picking me up, but just holding me in that energy. And as I got older, this was pre-verbal, obviously. And then as I got older, it's almost as if Charlie became a playmate for me. So one of these invisible friends, you always hear about. But Charlie was not exterior to me. He was always on the inside. He was my imagination. He was my friend, and he would teach me things. And one of the greatest things, now think about this. I was 8 years old, laying in bed, thinking about, how far up the sky goes, the kind of thing kids think about. How far does the space go? And so I used to ask Charlie these questions all the time. And this one was really clear. I said, Charlie, how far does space go? And he said, it goes as far as the farthest imagination can take it. And that really blew me away at 8 years old. And since then I'm thinking, well, does that mean if there's imaginations on other planets that it keeps continuing out and out? And yeah, it just keeps going. As long as there is an imagination somewhere that can experience that vision of space going farther and farther, then that's how far space goes. Anyway, that really hit me when I was little. So yeah, Charlie's always been with me. Charlie, I've got a big blog on my website called My God Charlie, and I've got a lot of the writings. I used to do a lot of automatic handwriting and get all of these lessons from Charlie. There's a little bit like Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, a little bit, kind of like that.
Yeah, you would have fit right into this conference as a speaker.
Nice.
Yeah, and I definitely think you qualify as an experiencer with that story. You told me another one that sticks with me of you seeing one of these mantis beings at your doorway.
Oh yeah, that one I was in bed. And I was waking up and I looked and there was a light in the hallway. My room was dark, a light in the hallway. And there was the perfect silhouette of, again, this same kind of large, tall, triangular head shape. It was mostly the silhouette, but it was kind of shocking. And the body was very thin. And it scared the daylights out of me. I just ducked under the covers, hid my little head, and I tried to pretend it wasn't there.
Yeah,
scary. Yeah.
So, and for those of listeners who might be new to this topic, if you do a survey of all alien encounter stories, the mantis aliens are one of the ones they're one of the least ones that are reported, like down at 2%. It's mostly gray aliens. Then there's some, and that's like vast majority are with some sort of gray alien with large black eyes. Some tall, some little, shorter, often together. Seems like the tall ones are directing the small ones. And then there's reptilian aliens that are seen, and then mantis aliens, and then there's sort of human-looking Nordic-like aliens. Sometimes Nordic, not necessarily blonde Nordic. And that's something I asked the Asterius Society. I was like, okay, so you believe there's only enlightened aliens. What do they look like? And they say they look human. So that's the ones that they encounter. I would have been fascinated if they had said they're all reptilian or they're all mantis.
Right.
But there was
trying to categorize them as a challenge. There's so many now.
Yeah. And I went to one panel that said they, at least one of the people on the panel said they communicated with what's called the Mantis Collective. So I was very excited to see, okay, what do you say this man? Because of you, I was very curious what they would say.
Yeah, now you got me. Hope you
Uh,
went to it. What did
yeah.
they say? Yeah.
So this panel was really interesting because it had 3 people on it who every week they get together and channel aliens and talk. And uh, I'll put their names in the description because I don't look them up now. But one of them, 2 of them were men, and one communicated with this. And when they communicate with them, they sit there, they meditate for a few minutes, and they're breathing in a strain, and they make these. They're really like getting themselves into, I don't know, a trance, and and
Yeah.
then they just embody the alien, like takes control of their body, and they communicate like it. And this one of the guys he's very like almost like Robin Williams, comedic and intense and making jokes and pop culture references. And so that was one of them. And the middle one, he was sort of dressed sort of like in a spiritual guru way. And I believe I think he clearly says in his description that he channels an alien from the Mantis Collective. And then there was the woman who she was when she was able to channel different aliens. She would channel these adult sort of teacher aliens who I think she said were Mantis aliens, and this alien was on a mothership, and it was on this ship they had, I think, thousands of human alien hybrid children that they were raising and educating. And then I believe some of the children were hers. Like they had a lot of alien abduction stories seem to indicate that there is an alien human hybridization program going on, and they're creating human alien babies, children, and she is saying her children are being raised on this ship, and she gets to communicate with them, and sometimes they channel through her. And so during this session, each of them would in turn speak as their alien, and they answered questions. They went around and let the room just ask questions, and they were answering questions. And so yeah, they basically, the basic gist of what they communicated was that these are good aliens, that the purpose of this human alien hybridization program is to create these more enlightened generation of beings that I guess that I don't know if it's building up to these human alien hybrids integrating with humanity, helping humanity in some way.
I have a pretty good picture of what I mean. Intuitively, my sense is that they are trying to hybridize all of us, everybody, in order to see if we're capable of creating a more heavenly environment on Earth. Not all this warmongering. I picked that up real clearly.
Yeah, that seems to be the gist of what they were saying. And now I remember they said that the Mantis aliens were brought in to help raise the children because I guess the other aliens that were raising them it wasn't going as well. So they needed a more enlightened, I think, teacher species to help. And that's why the Mantis aliens were brought in. I do believe them basically communicating that sort of and that was the impression I got, that the Mantis aliens were very spiritual and an enlightened species, which makes sense that they would be the ones connected with you and your life.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I did ask one question during that. I was like, gosh, these guys say they're communicating with aliens on motherships. I have so many things I wish I could have asked more, but the thing I asked them was, do you have AI on your ships, and what is your relationship with it? Because there's, a lot of wonder about if aliens are more than 1,000 years ahead of us, they have to have developed AI, and did it take over, or is it its own consciousness on their ship, or what is their relationship?
That's a great subject. I mean, even now, with Elon Musk and all that, trying to integrate the technology into the biology. And so, yeah, if we're just starting that now, imagine, 10, 100,000 years in the future, we've probably got that figured out pretty well.
Yeah.
And so all of us might just be, projections of their program, of this program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So I asked them that, but only the sort of comedian one responded. And what he said was that, the AI on his ship basically was like in communion with him. So it was almost like the ship is an extension of him. And so he was like, so if I leave my ship and you tried to steal the ship, it just wouldn't work because you'd be trying to like steal something that was connected with me and it knows me, something like that. So they didn't really go into any more detail. I would have loved a follow-up question like when they were channeling the children, I'd like to ask them. So that I'd like to ask, okay, so children on this mothership, do you get to talk to the AI? Can you ask it questions? Does it teach you? But they didn't really give me an answer.
Yeah.
And then there was an AI panel there, which was an uncomfortable panel because it had one guy that was I think his name's Adam Curry. He's a high-tech entrepreneur, mainstream, involved with developing, real world AI now. And then you had this guy named Adam Apollo, who basically believes, like many of the people at this conference he believes he's a star seed. He is an alien that has been embodied in many uh, in many lifetimes, in many different lives in this galaxy. He believes he's here on a mission, a protector of humanity and helping humanity. And so he was, I mean, and I liked him. He's very like inspired, and he's developing software to help people reclaim their digital identity online, and really he's sort of like a kindred spirit for me in that sense. He's trying to use technology and develop online stuff to really help humanity create an enlightened future.
Beautiful. What was
Um,
his name again?
his name's Adam Apollo. At least that's what
Okay.
he's listed as.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and then there was another guy on that. Actually, I think one of the guys, what's his name? Henry. Um, he's one of the guys that's on Ancient Aliens
Oh,
live.
right. Henry. Oh gosh, now I forgot his
Henry's
name.
his last name. It's like, is it Philip Henry or something? Or
John Henry. Might be. I'd have to look him up now.
William Henry.
William
Yes.
Henry. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's a mythologist, historian, TV. So he was on the panel. Um, and then also, and then there was this other guy. I don't remember his name, but the other guy, he believes we are living in a simulation and that there is a malevolent AI that has gone rogue and is really threatening us and perhaps controlling the simulation. And he and so he really believed that very strongly. And it was clear the people on the panel disagreed with what was being said, and it was very uncomfortable, and it wasn't very well facilitated. They were kind of, people were talking too long, and it was and they were kind of, and it was awkward when you go to one of these panels and there's someone talking and there's someone else on the panel that is clearly visually making facial expressions or whatever and shaking their head like no. And so
Oh,
it was
yeah.
kind of awkward.
Mm.
um yeah, and then there was another guy on the panel that like wasn't talking at all, and he was a black man, and I just felt like awkward that some of these guys were just taking so much time and they weren't giving everyone an equal sort of chance to say something. So anyways, but that just
Well,
sort of goes back.
you have a solution for that, right? And we're going to try to get that out to the public for use, the vortex
Yes.
concept.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's extremely well. I mean, I think it's one of the fundamental challenges we have as a species is learning how to share space equally,
yes.
how to do better than we've come up with what we have in our government, which is majority rule and Robert's Rules of Order, which is it is it's an incredibly flawed system. And when you just have a group of people on a panel and you don't have equal time, you just have basically Lord of the Flies. You just like
Yeah.
who has the most privilege to talk the most, or just hogs the time. And
Yeah,
you know,
that needs to be solved.
yeah. And so, as you said, I've been working on this as a facilitator for years, and I am trying to finish up one version of the software I've built that all it does is give people equal time to speak. It just shares the microphone one after the other, and it's called the Vortex. I've made a few versions of it, but haven't had one yet that works without bugs. So we're trying very hard to get there.
It'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And while I was sitting there, I was just like, oh, I just want to have this panel on the Vortex. I just want to give each person a chance to speak and then pass the mic and just let it keep going around. You know, I think it would also, and you know, it's not like people's fault that they talk so much. People are so excited about what they want to say and they have so much they want to share. It's hard to stop yourself. You need it. It actually would liberate people if they knew, okay, you're just going to be cut off when you're done. Your time's going to end. So you don't have to feel bad. You know, it's several times that we had facilitators having to cut people off, and you could see how embarrassed and bad the person felt that they had to be cut off.
Yeah.
And suddenly you feel like I went too long, and now you feel like no one actually listened to you because everyone was getting, you know, it's such a bummer to feel like I just shared everything I have to say, but now I feel like everyone was just annoyed with me while I was talking too long.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be solved.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's see. Yeah. So there was that AI panel. And then several experiencer panels. I mean, people that have had incredibly crazy, interesting experiences with aliens, spirits. There's yeah, I mean, a guy that's, you know, had some near-death experiences and severe brain injuries and been communicating with spirits and can perceive, you know, if spirits or aliens have sort of taken over people. He's kind of like a specialist in
he can detect that?
yeah, he had several experiences where where people are basically possessed, and he says it can lead to you know, people becoming addicts and things like that if they are possessed by, and his view, he didn't really think of them as aliens. He saw them as, you know, people who died and their spirit had and I mean, this sort of sounds kind of sci-fi to me, that their spirit has a choice of going into the light, you know, and the light being sort of like a you know, maybe like the next level of the simulation or something. But if they don't go into it because they're afraid or confused and they stay here, they sometimes go into another human, and it can cause all sorts of problems for that human. And so he helps people, you know, actually get these spirits out of them, and because he can see them and communicate directly with them. And I believe this guy. He was very very interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I went to this conference. You know, I've gone sort of, oh, his name was Barry Littleton. Yeah. He was born with past life memories, began having paranormal experiences at a young age, led him into a lifetime of research and exploration in the metaphysical and paranormal fields, including psychic abilities and mediumship. So I found he was a very interesting one.
That reminds me of Matthias de Stefano. Have you heard of him? He's another one that claims to have total recall of all of his past lives and memories. He's fascinating to listen to. So he has a show on Gaia called Initiation. And I just really went down that rabbit hole for a long time listening to him. Fascinating, really interesting. Talks about all the different races, the alien races. Well, not all of them. There's so many, but he does talk about the alien races and the planets and the systems. And anybody really interested in learning about one way to look at all of this through a storyline that he says is from his memories. I recommend that series. It's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, and this event was sponsored by Gaia. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and the Elizabeth April was there. She was actually the reason I went to the whole conference. She is a very famous YouTube uh, uh, person who, yeah, who says she meditates and leads meditations and communicates again with the Galactic Federation, and she's written several books about all the things that she's learned. And I went to her thing, and it was kind of wild seeing her in person. I was hoping she would do a little bit more. She would do like do something like those other guys did and directly communicate with aliens while we were there and let us ask questions. But she didn't do that. But it's still interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some like Randall Carlson was there. He's someone that's been on like Ancient Aliens, and Nick Pope was there. It was funny. I saw there were these dances, this sort of after party each night, and Daniel Sheehan and Nick Pope showed up to one of these dances, and it's just sort of like a club atmosphere, and it was
Fun.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
They seemed like a fish out of water there, but people were going up and taking selfies with them. Nick Pope is a famous ufologist from former British specialist. He ran the UAP program in Britain.
That's great.
Um,
So Greer
David,
wasn't there, right? Stephen?
no,
No.
no,
Mhm.
Stephen Greer. David Childress, he's another sort
Oh
of
yeah.
famous Ancient Aliens guy. I went to an Ancient Aliens panel there. They also had the guy that's the voice of Ancient Aliens, the one that says, Ancient Alien theorists say yes.
Right, right. The narrator. Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the title of the Ancient Aliens panel was Galactic History. And I was like, I love that. I want to hear what people think the galactic history is. But when I got to the panel, they were just like telling their story of how they got involved with Ancient Aliens and the TV show. And they were just sort of, what's your favorite episode? And they
Yeah.
didn't really. So I just sort of skipped out of that one because I was like, okay, I want to hear what your theories are of galactic history. I love hearing people's theories of what aliens exist, what are their agendas,
Yeah.
what are they doing, what have they been doing with humanity throughout history.
Yeah,
That's
that's why I really loved the Matthias de Stefano initiation series because it starts all the way back before Atlantis. It's focused on the Earth, obviously, Earth consciousness, evolution of aliens and all. And it goes all the way back to the continent of Mu, which preceded Atlantis. And then he talks about the Earth change. Oh, it's just fascinating stuff. So, yeah, anybody who can give a story that sounds plausible, I'm listening to it. Yeah, it could be true. Who knows?
Yes. And James Fox was there. He's a director, and he is one of his biggest films on UFOs is called Moment of Contact. And there was a showing of it, and I went to it, and I highly recommend this.
Oh, I'm gonna write that down.
It's a documentary about a UFO that landed in Brazil, and this thing I believe the craft I think was the craft was I think grabbed by the government. There was military all over the place there, but an alien got was loose in this little town in Brazil,
Oh,
and three girls who were, I think they were around 12 or 13, they were playing and walking through this empty lot, and they saw this alien crouched down and scared, and it looked at them, and it was like slimy and gray and black eye, I believe, or black or red eyes or something, and they screamed and ran, and they ran home. And this movie is basically an interview. This was like, I think like 20 years ago, but the interview is recent. He went down there and just interviewed everyone that was still alive. And so they ran home, and their mom comes out, could feel before they even got there something was wrong, and she came out and they told her what they had seen, and they ended up being interviewed on the news. And there's these old news videos of them terrified, saying what they saw. They took them to the field, and showed them where it happened. And now they're all grown up. They're all like 20, I don't know, 30 years old now. And so they had old interviews and new interviews. But back then, there was also apparently the military found this alien, and one of the soldiers grabbed it and they wrestled it into a vehicle. But the soldier that grabbed it, or maybe he was police, he developed a strange illness and he died as a result of something that, like, touching the slime on this alien. And they interviewed the doctors that treated the guy and who saw him. And then James Fox was able to track down some of the other soldiers who actually helped transport the alien who had seen it. And one of them, who also knew the soldier that died, he refused to be on camera, but he was refused to be seen fully on camera, but you heard his story. You heard the story from a family also that was witnesses to some of this. And it was, so incredibly compelling. You believe all these people, and you can tell from the fear and the way they're speaking and the way, it's just like, it's one of the most compelling. If you doubt all these crazy alien abduction stories, this is absolutely one of the best things to watch, to really just help you understand, to see these are real events. Something happened here. Listen to what they're describing. There's no motivation for them to lie. Their lives have been changed and often messed up by having seen this, because they tell you how the police and they have old news footage of the head of the local military, and you can just tell by the way he's responding that he's so full of it. He's like Kirkpatrick. He's just lying and brushing them off. And the mother, this was the one, it just like hit me emotionally. The mother was saying that 3 men in black showed up at her house like a week after. I guess some ufologists went down to interview them right after this happened, and then like 10 days after they left, 3 men in black showed up, and a man came into her house with a suitcase full of cash, and he said, "We are going to make you very rich. You just have to tell your girls that they never saw what they saw, and you need to say they were lying." And the mother was like, "No, I am not taking your cash. I'm not going to say my girls are lying. They saw what they saw. This is the truth." And she told them to get out. And these are poor people. She refused a suitcase full of cash.
Probably very Christian. They weren't going to lie, right? So
it's just like,
yeah.
But it's so inspiring to, have that level of integrity. And there was another guy involved in the story also. He was like confronted by these 3 men in black at a gas station and told, never speak about this again.
Is this all in the movie Moment?
Yeah.
What was it? Moment of Contact?
Moment of Contact, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then James Fox, he takes his crew, they find another soldier who was directly involved with this, and they find his house. He's never been interviewed, and he actually talks to them from a window, and he just tells them, "You need to get out of here or I'm going to shoot you." He's just like, and he refuses to talk to them because they're scared. It's clear the military and also the men in black, these were Americans. Everyone is saying it was like U.S. officials of some sort immediately went down there and started to interfere with the truth of this story coming out. So it's just like, it really reinforces the narrative that there is some force deep in the U.S. government that has been part of suppressing this truth, and that they are clearly willing to be jerks, to be threatening about it. And it just, it does brings back that there's some sinister stuff behind this.
I don't know how into my issue I want to go, but I was just listening to some videos this morning about resonance and how different frequency resonances affect us. And this particular video was fascinating, because if you look at each chakra in the body as a portal that's resonating at a certain, frequency, And depending on where we are putting our attention is so important. Where we're putting our attention now more than ever is drawing in these frequencies. It's like taking a tuning fork, say, for a frequency of 528 hertz, and you ring it. Anything in that room that is in the same frequency, vibrational potential is going to start resonating with it. So if we are allowing our mind, this is where meditation comes in. If we are allowing our thoughts to go into frightening frequencies, which are, the 396 hertz root chakra and the 417 hertz sacral, these are the survival, fear, paranoid resonances. And if we put our attention on those issues, we will begin to bring everything to life that's in that frequency. And so this is the way I'm approaching life, right? I want to maintain a frequency around the heart chakra, which is, and also there's the DNA repair frequency is 528 hertz. Anybody interested in? So when you're meditating, you can actually learn how to release these fear thoughts. When you are in a stream of thinking tied to strong emotions, having the ability to see it, first of all, and redirect it to a different frequency, a higher frequency, that's a superpower. And people think, well, meditation is just, to calm down and stop thinking about stuff. But really, it's an exercise of learning how to redirect your thoughts. So we don't want to open those portals that are fearful and paranoid, and because you're just going to start making that whole reality more solid. So my meditations are really centered around the heart, around higher frequency. That's the real world I want to bring in. And I think we have a lot of help right now on the other side, or whatever you want to call it, from aliens. There's a lot of help coming through for anybody willing to open those portals, that we will be guided. And the whole goal, as I said before, is to kind of build this heaven on earth, to hybridize our consciousness so that we can experience heaven in this three-dimensional plane. And that's the goal, I think, and that I resonate with. So,
well, excellent. Well, with that, shall we transition to our closing meditation?
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Right. And how long do you want to
Let's go with 10 minutes. I know to really get the benefit of meditation, in my experience, and I've been doing it for decades and decades, 20 minutes is the minimum to really start to get the benefit of it. But let me just, do a 10-minute here, and that's just an introduction, and your listeners can continue afterwards if they want to.
Great. All right.
Okay, so should we start?
Yeah, ready.
I'll invite everybody to find a comfortable position, and recognizing that there's a lot of energy right now, and everybody's kind of buzzing. So I'm going to ring the bell, and we'll start by just getting grounded, listening to the bell from the beginning to the end. Now let's begin to take a very conscious, deep breath. Just put our attention on our breath, wherever we feel it most clearly. And just begin to take a nice deep breath in. You'll feel it a little cooler at the nostrils and a little warmer coming out. So we're just paying attention to the body right here, right now, in the way it's breathing. When you hear sounds, you just notice them and come back to the breath. It's inevitable that the mind will wander, and the practice of meditation is to see it, to recognize I have wandered away again on my train of thoughts. Recognize it, see it for what it is, and then choose to come back to the breath. This is your anchor. Exercising this ability of releasing. First notice and then release is a superpower. We get so drawn into trains of thought without any control. So just seeing it and releasing it takes practice. Meditation is for the mind what exercise is for the body. Returning to our breath. It could be another sensation, such as a clock ticking. The intention is to just return to this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment. Breathing in, breathing out. So what I like to do with my energy is to set the intention of lifting my energy into feelings of gratitude, connection, even adventure, curiosity. So we want to raise our frequency to a place that feels inviting, comfortable, fun. Fun is a great one. Just that sense of joy, the joie de vivre. Breathing in, breathing out. We're all in this together. Let's open that portal of love in the heart and make that connection. And from this portal, we can invite whatever wisdom we need in order to complete this project of bringing heaven to earth. If we can keep this portal of love open, then we can be sure that every step we take and every word we say is coming from the right place, moving us in the right direction. Kindness and honesty. Those are the tools. We are being guided. All we have to do is listen with loving awareness. Right here, right now. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Doro. Until next time.
Bye-bye.